My favorite version of Obito was when he was pretending to be Madara. Madara's legacy precedes him, and before we got to meet him in reality, we already knew who and what we were in for. A man considered to the Uchiha what Hashirama Senju was considered to the rest of the village, with equally matched power to boot. Their epic battle carved the Valley of the End, something that Hashirama Senju only won because he had a deeper chakra well. That made me wonder, you know who else has deep chakra wells? The Uzumaki Clan. With all these videos about being reborn with memories floating around, the next logical step was to have a character be reborn as a different character. And who better to choose for the first video in this line than the most influential person in all of the Naruto series? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. As he laid there and died, Madara could not help but feel overwhelming disgust. There was a slight bit of pride, but it was bittersweet. To have come so far, only for all of his efforts to be completely destroyed because of not one, but two traitors to his cause. He had trusted Black Zetsu, believing he had created it, but it seems he too was lied to. Black Zetsu didn't carry his own will, but instead the will and genetic information of that woman, that Otsutsuki. If it hadn't been for her, or Naruto and Sasuke, he would have won. But now it was too late. His body, though only returned to health and vigor but a few hours ago, was now broken beyond repair. Ruined. His body had been mistreated by Kaguya, whose eruption from within him was violent and chaotic. Though he might not have looked as bad as he thought he would have, the effects still remained. His very internal organs burned from the strain, stress, and tearing that had been caused. But that wasn't what was killing him. The Ten Tails itself had mostly healed the more traumatic injuries that threatened his life. The last nail in the literal coffin was the removal of that Ten Tails. To say that Madara was pissed off would be to undersell the true rage he felt. If he had not yet awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, he felt as if he would be able to right now with the pure, murderous rage he felt in his heart for Obito and Black Zetsu. The only consolation he received as he died was knowing that he outlived them both. They had both been killed before him. Obito first by the ash bone that would dissolve his traitorous hide to ash. And Zetsu, well, technically he was still alive, but his fate was possibly worse than death. Forever sealed away in a dreamless slumber, within a mindless creature, a dead ghost in a statue. To this end, he smiled. But quickly that smile faded away as darkness grew closer to him. That was until he heard something. The clang of metal, like armor. He saw it, a burgundy shadow, dark and looming as it grew closer. His Sharingan were active, but they were now too dim to see. Ironic that his dojutsu, designed to see better, was now too blurry to tell what was right in front of his face. His chakra sense told him it was a familiar face, though. "Is that you, Hashirama?" he asked. "Yes," came the voice of the man he both respected and despised, and loved to hate. "I guess that neither you nor I were able to achieve what we wanted." "It's never that easy," Hashirama said. "Our job is to merely do all that we can while we're alive, and then to bequeath the rest of it for future generations to accomplish." Madara scoffed. "You are so naive." "Just as you usually are," Madara said as he grasped the ground. At that moment, time seemed to freeze. Everything froze around them. Hashirama, mid-sentence, froze. Reality came screeching to a halt. That's when he noticed him, standing in the distance. A man that was approaching him. What kind of man can stop time at the snap of his fingers? The man approached and knelt down before Madara. His hair was white and his skin was purple. He was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. A demon in all senses of the word, but there was something familiar about him. Behind the wire-frame glasses sat a pair of what appeared to be Rinnegan. "Who are you?" Madara asked through his weakened respiratory system. "Hiya, my name's Fu, and I'm your benefactor today." "Fu," Madara said. "Legends," he continued. Fu raised an eyebrow. "Oh, does my reputation precede me?" "The legends speak for themselves. A demigod with abilities one could see as magical. Now that I see you with my own eyes, I know that not to be true. You are a sage of 6 paths." Fu let off a chuckle. "I am a sage, yes, but before I was a sage, I still fulfilled those legends. Magic does exist, and in this world I can do anything." "How boring," Madara said. Fu laughed again. "You know what? I really like you, Madara. I'm working on a grand experiment, and I want you to be a part of it. A visionary mind like yours can do anything, has the will to do anything. I can grant you anything you desire, but first, I want you to gather a little energy. So while you're giving me what I want to give you what you want. Fu raised his hands and snapped his fingers. In but a moment, Madara felt as though his soul was completely torn from his body. He didn't even have enough time to gasp in pain. As time resumed, Hashirama saw the body go limp. It was unexpected, but it seemed that Madara had died suddenly. How peculiar. A rush of memories and emotions passed through Madara's mind so quickly that he could not process them. It was as if the entirety of decades worth of information was being poured into his mind. His mind, even having grown used to the Sharingan and its Mangekyo variant, still couldn't process this information fast enough. Suddenly, it was dark. Dark and hot. Hell, he said in his gravelly, wonderful voice. Neil Kaplan, if you're watching this, you're the best. I'm in hell, he said. No, there were no flames. The heat wasn't that intense. It was less like the flames of hell and more like the steam of a sauna. His eyes opened and birds were singing. Where am I? He asked. He looked around. He was in bed. The window was open. Sitting up, his sheets peeled from his back due to the intense sweat. He looked at the clock. It was 30 minutes to noon. Looking out the window, he saw the very village he helped found and tried to annihilate. Konoha. Feeling how sticky his shirt and shorts were, he realized the truth. He hadn't yet recognized the pattern on the shirt. It's a heat wave, he said. Huh, I guess the voice travels with you, a voice said. Madara turned around to face the voice. It was Fu. He was hovering just above the ground, legs crossed, arms crossed, like some meditating monk judging his every movement. What is this? Madara demanded to know. Fu raised his arms to show him the room. You've been reborn. Reborn? Madara asked. Fu nodded. The one thing you wanted there at the end, right? The chance to do it all over again? Well, congratulations. Here's your chance. But I even gave you a bit of a leg up. Fu pointed back to the bathroom. Madara looked past him into the mirror. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Fu nodded. I took you back about half a decade. Your soul now inhabits Naruto's body. If my soul's in Naruto's body, then where is Naruto's soul? Madara asked. Fu shrugged. As a sage of six paths yourself, you should probably know better than to ask questions about what happens to the souls when separated from their bodies. Madara began to catch on. He started to smile. Interesting. So this is my chance to make good on my dreams. What do you get out of this? Fu pushed his glasses up as they sparkled in the sunlight. I get all the energy this timeline creates for myself. Energy? Madara questioned. You mean sage energy? Fu thought about it. If that helps you understand it, I suppose. But consider it to be a test of sorts, an initiation, a way to see what you're capable of with my own two eyes. I, too, have heard legends. These legends were of a ghost who wandered battlefields, preying upon the dead and dying like a vulture. A ghost whose will lived on well past his years, who decimated an entire army by his lonesome. A man who challenged the whole world and won. That's the kind of man I think I could use. But first, I want to know what you're capable of. Truly, with my own eyes. Consider the energy you give me from this new timeline as the good faith offering you would give to a new business partner. And in return, I'll give you a world where you will succeed in your goals. But only if you're worthy. What do you say? Madara thought about it. He let off a smile. I think I will take you up on this offer. Fu clapped his hands. Good. Deal struck. I'll be off now. I won't be around much after this, but just know that I'm always watching you. Ta-ta. And with that, Fu disappeared. Madara got out of bed and walked to the window and looked out. His mind ran wild with possibilities. With his current physical strength, he was not yet ready to take on the world. But with his abilities and natural skill, he still stood over most shinobi in this village. He just had to awaken his true potential. And there was only one way to do that. He stepped to the closet and opened the door. Looking inside, he saw nothing but the same garish orange outfit. How this passes for shinobi garb is beyond me, he said. He opted for a dark-colored t-shirt and some shorts to match. It had been a long time since he had dressed so childishly. His body craved to be back in its old armor, but things were different now. This was no longer his body. This was no longer his life. But he would make it his body. He would make it his life. After changing into this new outfit, he looked at himself in the mirror and into those baby blues he now possessed. I know exactly where to start. He left the apartment and began walking down the road. As he did, he stopped into a military surplus store. With all the money Hiruzen had given Naruto for the month, he bought nothing but weapons. "Aren't you a little bit young to be buying a Fuma shuriken?" the store owner asked, as if he were looking for a reason to deny Naruto's service. "Aren't you a bit fat to be asking such questions?" Madara asked in return, pointing out that the man obviously hadn't been training with the weapons he sold. The man's eyes widened in rage. "Why, you?" He reached out and grabbed Madara by the collar, lifting him over the counter. As he did, Madara looked down upon him with the same ascendant gaze he had given all others save a few. The man suddenly felt the pressure coming off of Madara and began to wonder what mistake he had made by laying hands on this one. The nine-tailed demon fox?" the man wondered. Madara thought about it for a moment. Ah, yes, this one always had the nine tails, didn't he? Touching his feet down on the table, Madara gripped the man by his forearm. Despite the hand being so small, it gave off incredible strength. That strength continued to grow more and more potent the more Madara squeezed. The level of chakra he was putting off at this point was unusual for one this size. Eventually, his grip snapped the man's radius and ulna in half. His arm fell to the side, held together simply by the skin and musculature. Hopping down from the counter, Madara broke open one of the scrolls he had purchased and began sealing his newly purchased weapons into them. Madara would then leave the location. Stepping out into the sunlight, he looked up at that dreadful sun, the heat burning over paradise. The oppression of this heat was the weight of the shinobi world and the reality in which they live. It was the heat which he hated yet thrived in. He loved the thrill of war, and no place better did he belong than on the battlefield. He popped his neck and began to think about himself, what he needed. What he wanted, he would have it. But what he needed now was to find that boy. The boy who had been his legacy. Hashirama was a fool for leaving the future to the next generation. Madara had done that with Obito, and he had failed. Now it was time for him to usurp his legacy again. An Indra incarnate in the body of an Ashura incarnate. It was only a matter of time until he awakened the Six Paths powers. But before he did, he needed to retrieve a pair of Sharingan to evolve. While it was true he could simply go and retrieve the Rinnegan that had once been his, he realized that in this new body with these new genetics, he would be unable to revert the Rinnegan back into his Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan. No more Susanoo, no more photographic vision. While Madara knew that he would no longer be in possession of the techniques he had grown accustomed to, he knew that it could be far worse, and Amaterasu was far from a bad technique. If anything, Madara believed he might fare even better with Amaterasu than anything else, and so he began to look for the boy, Sasuke. Passing through the village, he knew he would find him somewhere. It wasn't like Madara couldn't sense him. Besides, where would an orphan really go in this village? Walking through the area, he found Sasuke sitting on a small dock, hanging out over a lake. That had once been his favorite spot as well. Between the Choku Tomoe and this, Madara was certain that Sasuke was indeed his successor. So in a way, he felt as though he were doing himself a disservice by attacking him. But then again, there were causal nexuses that couldn't be separated. Madara was strong. He was a victor, and this meant Sasuke would be weak and the vanquished. Consider it payback for the Fourth Great Ninja War. He walked along the dock behind Sasuke. Sasuke turned around and saw him there. Madara stopped behind him. Sasuke spoke. "Where's that ugly orange jumpsuit you normally wear?" It was at this time that a foot was planted into Sasuke's back, pushing the air from his lungs while simultaneously putting him into the water. Sasuke struggled for a moment to get to the surface. Once he had, he grabbed the dock and began to cough and hack. He looked up. "What's your deal, you jerk?" Madara continued to look down on Sasuke with discontent. Sasuke felt a shiver go down his spine as he looked up at him. "Naruto, what's gotten into you today?" "This is shameful," Madara said. Sasuke cracked a smirk. "What's with that voice? Puberty hit you like a truck." Madara didn't smile. Sasuke felt that this was all business. He put his hand out. "Don't be a dick, pull me up." Madara extended out his hand to Sasuke's grip. Sasuke's smile slowly began to fade as he felt pressure being applied. Looking into what he took to be Naruto's eyes, he saw a flame in them that did not bode well for him. With a yank and a jerk, Sasuke was pulled from the water and sent flying, landing in the grass by the bank of the lake. He opened his eyes to see Naruto walking in his direction. Sasuke stood. "Fine, you want to fight? I'll give you one." As Madara continued to pace closer to Sasuke, he stopped and crossed his arms. "Well, if you're so confident, then please, by all means, I'll give you the first shot." Sasuke, now caught between the physical assault and the challenge to his honor, began to rush at Madara. He attempted to kick him in the side of the head, only for Madara to effortlessly catch with his left wrist. Sasuke then attempted to punch with his right hand. The strike hit Madara right in the hard part of his skull, causing Sasuke to recoil in pain as his knuckles began to bleed. Madara threw the boy down. "Impressive. using your limber nature to attack in more ways than your opponent can dodge. Maybe I misjudged you a bit. You think outside the box, not too unlike me, I suppose. Your biggest error, though, is believing that you can strike anything and not be hurt by your own recoil. Sasuke, laying there, looked back, confused as to how this could be the same Naruto as before. Why are you doing this, Naruto? Sasuke demanded. Madara knelt down in front of Sasuke and spoke. I don't really think a long-winded explanation of my motives would do you any good. Now show me what you've got. Everything. Do not hold back or you will die. Frankly, even if Sasuke didn't hold back, he would die. His death was already a foregone conclusion, but Madara knew that when he took the Sharingan, the base dojutsu needed to be activated. If it wasn't, he doubted he'd be able to activate it on his own. He needed Sasuke giving his all if he wanted to take what was his. My best, Sasuke demanded. Show me the eyes that set you above everyone else. I haven't awakened my Sharingan yet, Sasuke said. Madara scoffed. Yes, you have. You awakened them when Itachi slew your parents before your very eyes. I want to see what you have. If you can't beat me at your best, do you think you'll ever be able to beat Itachi? Sasuke pointed his finger in Madara's face. Don't you ever use that name, Naruto. I'm warning you. Madara smiled. Warning me about what? That you'll get mad. That you will retaliate out of anger. Try to kill me. That's exactly what I want from you, Sasuke. I want you to try your damnedest to splatter me. Use my blood to tint this beautiful blue water to a cherry red. Madara grew closer to Sasuke, proved that Itachi didn't waste his time by leaving you alone. Sasuke roared, kicking Madara away with all of his strength. Madara went rolling and stopped. He looked forward. A single tomoe in one, a double in the other. Yes, a fledgling dojutsu, but they will suffice for now. You made a mistake, Naruto, and now I'm gonna make sure you don't eat solid food for a month. Sasuke rushed forward, running with his arms behind him. With every step he took, Madara realized just how sloppy Sasuke was. This peaceful era has made you soft. It's disgusting, Madara said as he caught Sasuke's kicks. What the hell are you on about? Sasuke demanded. Sasuke kept up the pressure. He attempted to discombobulate Madara with a set of ear slaps, but Madara caught the arms and snapped the wrists, causing Sasuke to scream in pain. Madara gripped him by the throat and smashed him to the ground before dragging him across the grass. Throwing him to the shore, he began to choke Sasuke, pushing his head below the water. Sasuke gagged and screamed. As Madara did this, he took his hand and pressed it to his Sharingan. Muffled screams echoing through bubbles were all Sasuke could produce as his Sharingan were removed from his head. Gasping in shock, Sasuke inhaled a lungful of water, choking before passing out. Leaving the boy unconscious in the water to die, Madara looked at the newly acquired Sharingan. Madara let off a smile before proceeding to discard the same blue eyes he had seen in the mirror earlier. He let them sink to the bottom of the lake as he replaced them with the crimson eyes. Placing them in, he opened his eyes as a bit of blood bubbled up and dripped from below his bottom lids. He pressed his palms to his eyes and used a bit of a healing technique he had picked up to ease the pain and speed up recovery time. It felt good to finally be able to see with the same reaction time as before. As he pondered the Sharingan, he began to finally understand why the Hyuga often placed seals on the foreheads of their members. It kept others from stealing their dojutsu. How prudent. All the same, he never would have done that himself. After all, he viewed it as a sign of weakness. No, if there was someone stronger out there who wanted his eyes, he implored them to challenge him for them. After all, to the victor go the spoils. Nobody had a right to anything, even if they were born with it. If they desired to keep what was theirs, then they had to have the strength to fight for it. Sasuke lost to one greater than him. That was his mistake. Madara would not lose to anyone ever again, and these eyes were going to be the seal he put on that promise. Walking over to Sasuke, he pilfered his body for whatever was on him, including a few ryo and a set of keys. This should be useful, he said as he turned and began to walk away. Dripping wet from the fight, he passed through the streets. Now, let's see what you have in your apartment, Sasuke. Madara came to the apartment door and opened it. Once he had, he stepped inside. This apartment smells much better than the one I woke up in. Well kept. I suppose that's another trait from me, he said. Stepping to the closet here, he opened the door. Inside, he found something more his style. A dark, long-sleeved shirt not too unlike a kimono. On the back was the crest of the Uchiha. Looking into the inside of the shirt, he found the tag. The size was the same as what Naruto wore, so that meant it would fit him perfectly well. Taking these, he went to the bathroom and proceeded to clean up from the fight. As he looked at himself in the mirror, the golden hair of this boy began to offend him. So he found a can of black hair dye and proceeded to do just that. Dye the hair black. There. That's much better. Inside of him, he felt the Ninetales beginning to grow distressed. I remember you, it said through the growling voice it always had. I began to wonder why my Jinchuriki suddenly felt like a different person. That's because he is. But the question I have is, how did you do this? I believe you had died, Madara. Oh, I have. on many occasions, but that isn't your concern right now. All that matters is that I now possess you. You're a slave to my will, and mine alone. Be a good fox, and maybe I'll reward you." Returning to his reality, he looked himself over. Black hair, black clothes, he felt like his old self again. At the same time, he felt like a child playing dress-up. But if anything, he was now making the body out to be what he was in spirit. That being said, this body could use some more training. It was weak in comparison to what he used to be, despite having the potential to surpass everything he once was. Stepping out of the bathroom, he walked toward the windows. He couldn't stay long. Surely the body would soon be found, and when it was, the Konoha police would be here soon. Tying his obi up, he tucked away the scrolls that would contain his items. As he walked to the door to open it, he was shocked to see someone already there, about to knock. Her hair was pink, and she was blushing something fierce. "Sasuke?" she asked as she went to continue some ill-conceived attempt to sway him into loving her. Then she stopped as she realized. "Naruto?" Madara looked at her. "What are you doing in Sasuke's apartment? Wearing Sasuke's clothes? Looking like Sasuke?" She gazed a little deeper. "Where did you get those?" she asked as she looked into his Sharingan, knowing that they used to be owned by the love of her life. "The same place I got everything else." "Your voice, it's so deep. What's going on here? Where's Sasuke?" Madara began to walk away. Sakura called after him. "Naruto!" She ran after him. Slapping him in the back of the head, she spoke. "You better listen to me when I'm talking to you." Madara turned around, grabbed her by the throat, snapped her neck, and threw her over the railing to the ground below. "Can a man not have some peace and quiet?" There were screams of terror as many civilians began to circle around Sakura's remains. Madara simply walked out of the building and began to walk away. As he did so, he began to contemplate how he would train his body to grow stronger quickly. He had some unfinished business with the Akatsuki that he needed to deal with sooner rather than later. Wandering around a bit, he found an old training ground that was just perfect for him. Jumping up on the bars, he began doing pull-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4. He did as many as he could, as slowly and as excruciatingly painful as he could make it. The more pain he felt, the more motivated he grew to keep going. His muscles felt like they might tear. "Good. Keep going," he said as he continued. He was attempting to train until failure. That was the best way to increase his body strength. And the more strength his body had, the more chakra he could call on later. He would need that as well, due to the drain that the Sharingan would have on him. But he was grateful to be an Uzumaki. Their chakra wells were notoriously large, which meant that they were of the few people in this world who could easily hold a Sharingan without dying. He also planned to someday find some of Hashirama Senju's cells to begin to implant within himself. The introduction of Senju genetics would knock the edge off the Sharingan's chakra cost, allowing him to use them almost non-stop with little to no side effects. They would further ensure that his Mangekyou Sharingan never went blind due to the sheer regenerative factor that they came with. Once he had all this stuff, he knew that he'd be ready to retake his currently hijacked plan and make his dreams a reality. He switched to sit-ups. As he did them, he heard a voice. "Naruto?" Madara stopped and hopped down. It was Kakashi. What was he doing here? "What are you doing here, Kakashi-sensei?" Madara asked, as if he didn't already know. "I was just looking for you," Kakashi said. "Considering that Sakura's body was found outside of Sasuke's apartment, and Sasuke's mutilated body was found by the lake, I was beginning to think someone was picking off all of my students for some reason. Now I know. It was you all along." Madara shrugged. "I guess I'm not the only one with a Sharingan, am I?" Kakashi listened to him speak. "You're not Naruto. Who are you?" "I don't really think it matters much. I don't expect you to survive to tell anyone. And what good would it be explaining everything to a dead man? Seems like a waste of effort." Kakashi drew closer. "So tell me, is Naruto still in there?" Kakashi asked. Madara scoffed. "Why do you ask? Because you want to take it easy on me? No. The answer's no. Naruto is no longer of this world. I am all that remains. That should free you from any moral obligations, am I correct? Give me a true fight, Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye." Kakashi, noticing Sasuke's own Sharingan and hearing that there was no advantage to Kakashi hiding his true potential, raised his forehead protector to display his Sharingan. Madara began to systematically pop all of his knuckles. Once he had done this, he crossed his arms, waiting for Kakashi to come at him. "You may have the first move." "Oh, how very gentlemanly of you," Kakashi said as he planned his adversary's death. Kakashi rushed forward with incredible speed that most Sharingan couldn't catch. Madara, with his own lower-tier Sharingan, didn't see him coming until it was too late. He was struck in the side, causing Madara to be launched toward the wall, where he was left stuck in the wall's impression of himself. Madara pulled himself free. "You're fast. I like that. Speed is the element that sets apart good shinobi from great shinobi. You would have done well in the Warring States period." Kakashi began to weave hand signs. Fire style, fireball technique. He summoned a massive ball of fire to burn away his opponent, only for Madara to jump above him before landing on the ground behind. Madara, wielding 2 kunai, proceeded to spin and strike at Kakashi, attacking him multiple times in hopes that Kakashi wouldn't be able to deal with the speed of the attacks. "So I see that you're a user of fire style ninjutsu. Allow me to show you how a true master uses fire style." Madara then began weaving his own hand signs. "Fire release, great fire destruction." He then let out a massive wall of flames toward Kakashi. Kakashi would weave his own hand signs. "Water release, water formation wall." Then he spits out a wall of water toward Madara. The flames and the water collide, canceling each other out with a massive output of steam. Madara capitalizes on this with fire release, hiding an ash and dust technique. Ash and smoke mixes with the steam, further lowering visibility. Kakashi, even with his Sharingan, cannot peer through the smoke. Madara also can't see, but that's fine. He has experience fighting while being unable to see. He uses his Chakra sense to locate Kakashi and sneak up behind him. As he goes to strike Kakashi, Kakashi suddenly disappears with his substitution jutsu. Huh? He then hears Kakashi shout from all around him, "Lightning style!" He suddenly sees a multitude of glows around him. Kakashi is using the clone technique to hide his true location while he utilizes Chidori. Seeing all of the Kakashi clones coming towards him at once, Madara jumps up into the air to avoid them. It's only then that he realizes the real Kakashi was hiding on a rooftop and waiting for Madara to jump. Madara can hardly get out of the way and ends up being pierced through his right shoulder. Madara hits the ground and is filled with excruciating pain. The Ninetales, on his command, begins offering him chakra. The wound begins to heal. As Kakashi stands there, he utilizes the water bullet technique to knock down the ashen steam. Upon doing so, he sees Madara standing there again, his body enveloped in a bubbling red chakra, his eyes now transformed into 3 Tomoe Sharingan. "Thank you, Kakashi, for helping me get to this point. I will be growing much stronger from this, and I don't think I would have been able to without your help." Madara smiles and proceeds to rush Kakashi, his speed having increased due to his version 1 cloak. Kakashi attempts to defend himself, but as the strike comes in, Madara vanishes. The body flicker! Before Kakashi can readjust, Madara's hand pierces through his chest. Kakashi looks down at it. He gurgles a bit before Madara pulls his hand back through. Kakashi falls over dead. Madara stands there, looking down at Kakashi. He reaches down and proceeds to pluck the Sharingan from his eye. "This may be useful later," he says as he seals it into one of his scrolls. Madara walks over, finds a towel, and proceeds to wipe the blood from his body the best he can. As he does so, he begins to think about next steps. The thing on his mind the most was the destruction of Obito and Zetsu for betraying him. Then he would have to regather the tailed beasts once again. And that's where I plan to call it quits for the time being. Don't you worry, another part is on the way, I just can't help myself. I absolutely love Madara Uchiha. If you look up the words badass and best hair in anime, you will find pictures of him. He's the villain we all deserved. While Kaguya Otsutsuki may be a cool character who introduced more history to the series, I just think that the story would have been better if it remained a battle between Team 7 and Madara Uchiha. Kinda felt like a disservice to have Madara be so easily betrayed by Zetsu and then killed. So I guess you could say this is his real chance. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, leave a comment below and tell us what your favorite part was. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when more videos like this drop. And while you wait for that, try out these other great videos from our channel. Anyway, until next time, peace out.